So when you slow down, when you leave space for your words to land, you're not dragging out the story. You're helping people build meaning. You're giving their brains the space to do their job. Welcome to the Foster Your Voice podcast with me, Christy Foster. After a 30-year career in music and theater, I never imagined I'd be coaching trial attorneys. But once I entered your world, I quickly realized how critical and underutilized voice is in the courtroom. The truth is, you don't win trials with brute strength. You win with your voice. I'll give you tools to unlock your voice so you can communicate not just with purpose, but on purpose. If you want quick action tips to help you stay calm and in control, keep jurors engaged, and inspire your listeners to action, all through the power of your voice, you're in the right place. I'm Christy Foster, and I'm here to help you foster your voice. Hello, Foster fam. Hey, I just know that we're in some strange times right now. And I hope in this strangeness that you're really staying connected to loved ones and connected to people and things that fuel your life and give you joy. I would love to hear from you, specifically to learn what it is you're doing to keep your humanity, to keep your tenderness, keep your creativity and inspiration and artistry. So would you drop me a line, Christy at fostervoicestudio.com. That's KRISTI at fostervoicestudio.com. It's in the show notes too, but I really look forward to hearing from you. Hang in there. We can do this. Now, in today's episode, we're going to talk about one of the things that might be a hang-up for you in the courtroom, just what it is, and specifically what the jury needs from you. But as always, I like to just share a little something here at the start, something that inspires me or challenges me or is quirky or something that makes me think a little bit differently. Now, last week, I shared about when my mom was teaching me how to drive and the wise counsel she gave that can revolutionize your courtroom communication style. So go back and listen to the start of episode 24 as a little refresher if you missed it. But in thinking about learning how to drive, I was remembering then when I learned how to drive a stick shift. Now, I originally learned to drive on an automatic, and my first cars were automatic. My car now is an automatic, though I have had a couple manual transmissions in between. And my dad wisely suggested that I learn to drive a manual transmission for emergency situations, just for those just in case moments. So my college friend Elaine Parker taught me how to drive a stick in her, well, we would call it vintage now. It was a white VW Bug in the parking lot, and I was horrible. It's hard having to brake with your left foot, working the clutch and the gas, just gauging when to upshift, gauging when to downshift, finding the gear, slipping the gear, stalling. I mean, I was horrible, just horrible. But the summer that I ended up staying in LA for a job instead of coming back home, I had to borrow my friend Becca's car. And that was a stick shift, which meant I had to get it down. And at first, I had to really concentrate and pay attention to every little thing, all the micro movements. I was putting full concentration and attention into it, and I thought, will there ever be a time where this comes easy? It really seemed unlikely. But, a couple weeks in, and I was tooling along the freeways of Southern California, listening to music, eating a burrito on my way to work, and successfully driving that little car. I can't even remember what kind of car it was, but it was little and it was a manual. So, why am I sharing all my extensive driving history with you? Well, it's to remind you that new skills can be developed and they will feel natural and easy to you after a while. So, how? How do we do it? Well, we focus on one thing, dedicate conscious thought and attention to it, just like driving a stick shift, repetition and review. Attention times repetition equals intuition. And eventually, you can free up your conscious mind to think of something else, to work on developing another skill. What's a skill you've developed? It doesn't have to be a nonverbal vocal skill or a communication skill, even. Just what's a skill you've developed that at one point you thought, I'm never going to not have to think about this? Until one day you realized that you were just doing it without thinking, that you developed your intuition for it. So let me know. Let's get a list of examples going. Send me an email or find me on the socials. You know what I hate? Being misunderstood. It's actually one of my biggest fears, if I'm honest, right up there with birds. Yes, I'm afraid of birds. Leave me alone about it already. Being misunderstood is just the worst, though. Trying to communicate something and seeing that it's just not landing the way you intend. A too harsh of tone with your kid or spouse that ended up setting them off. A thinking face that got interpreted as annoyance or irritation and ended up shutting down the conversation and leaving you baffled. It's so frustrating in our personal lives, but in the courtroom, your mismatched communication profile could break your case and lose you a deserving verdict. So, I've created a free guide to get you thinking about the emotional profiles you create. It's a printable guide to help you 10x your communication impact by mastering 6 emotional profiles for clear and authentic connection. I break down the 6 core emotions: happy, sad, love, pride, anger, and fear by giving you face, body, and breathing cues. Plus, I show you exactly which point on a 1 to 10 scale you should be with your pitch, pace, melody, volume, and tone in order to authentically capture the center of that core emotion. The link to get your free guide is in the show notes or by simply going to my website, fostervoicestudio.com. Don't wait to clear up your part of miscommunication and misunderstandings. Get your free download today. Today we're talking about something that's absolutely foundational to effective courtroom communication, but often completely overlooked: pacing and pausing. Now, I know it sounds simple, but as someone who's deeply fascinated by how the brain works and how we can use that knowledge to communicate better, it's anything but basic. So let's just dive in. The brain is doing a lot more than you think. The human brain is a marvel. It's constantly taking in massive amounts of information. What you see, what you hear, the context of the room, the micro expressions on someone's face, the tone in someone's voice. And it makes meaning out of all of it almost instantly. It's a marvel. And yet, despite all that processing power, when it comes to learning, there are limits. Research in cognitive psychology and neuroscience tells us that the brain can't effectively take in information and deeply process it at the same time. Those are different cognitive processes. It needs a moment to shift gears. So, what happens when someone, let's say an attorney, speaks too quickly, moves on from one idea to the next without stopping? Well, jurors start gathering the information, but they can't keep up. The brain gets overwhelmed, bits and pieces fall through the cracks, and comprehension, true comprehension, starts to slip. This is where pacing and pausing come in. As a trial attorney, you already know your content. You've internalized it. You can tell your client's story in your sleep. But your audience, the jury, can't. And if you want your message to land, you've got to build in the space for that to happen. So here's what we know from neuroscience. Pauses give the brain time to encode information into memory. They reduce cognitive load, which is the mental effort required to make sense of what's being said. And strategically placed pauses also activate the brain's salience network, a system that helps your brain zero in on what's important. So, if you pause before a big reveal, after a powerful statement, or in between concepts so your listeners can reflect, you're not being dramatic. You're literally helping their brains know what to remember. So let's just reframe this. You're not just presenting a case. You're teaching jurors how to think about the case. You're teaching them how to understand it, how to remember it, how to explain it to others when they're back in deliberation. If they can't repeat it, they don't really know it. So ask yourself, are you giving them the space to follow along? Are you rushing through key points because they feel obvious or repetitive to you? Are you keeping your own nervous system in check, or is it speeding up your delivery? Remember, what's clear to you is most likely completely new to them. One of the most generous things you can do for your jurors is slow down. Now, if you're like my clients, and you are, I know that you do a lot of writing and you do a lot of reading because you are high functioning in the written word format. You might be tempted to think of pauses the same way you think of punctuation, pausing at commas, periods, paragraph breaks. And yes, that can help early on. But when it comes to trial work, when it comes to communication and delivery, it's not nearly enough. In writing, punctuation gives the reader visual cues to pause. It helps organize information into chunks that the brain can process. But jurors don't get a transcript. They don't get to highlight key phrases and reread a section to make sure they caught it right. They only have your delivery, your pacing, your vocal emphasis, your pauses to help them absorb and retain what you say. And that's especially important when you remember not everyone learns by listening. In fact, the majority of people are visual learners. They grasp and remember information better when they can see it through written notes, images, or spatial organization. So when someone is forced to rely purely on auditory input, like in the courtroom, they're already at a disadvantage. Now, this doesn't mean that you're doomed if you're not handing out your PowerPoint slide deck. It just means you need to meet your audience where they are. And one of the most generous things you can give them is time. Pausing gives your jurors room to mentally visualize what you're saying. It lets them build an internal scaffolding that helps them store and recall information later. That silence allows the brain, especially a visual one, to create the picture that your words alone can't fully deliver. And those pauses, they may need to be longer than you're comfortable with. But it's not about your comfort. It's about giving your jurors enough space to think, to feel, to process. So when you slow down, when you leave space for your words to land, you're not dragging out the story. You're helping people build meaning. You're giving their brains the space to do their job. So you're going to need to pause way more often and much longer than written punctuation would ever suggest. You are not just narrating events. You're helping jurors build understanding, and that takes more time than we often allow. So don't just punctuate your speech like it's a written paragraph. Think in cognitive segments. Ask yourself, how much information did I just give them? And how much time do they need to actually hold on to it? When you approach pacing from that mindset, you start to realize pauses aren't empty, they're active. They're doing the heavy lifting of communication. Now, I know this can feel like a big shift, especially when your natural cadence is fast or your adrenaline's running high in trial. But I want to make this practical for you. I created a free PDF resource to walk you through this exact concept. It's called Pace and Pause, the Perfect Pair. I love me some alliteration. And it's specifically for attorneys like you who want to learn how to slow down with purpose so that jurors don't just hear your case, they understand your case. There's a simple stopwatch exercise that helps you assess your real speaking pace and start to shift in a way that improves juror comprehension without losing your natural voice. This isn't about scripting every moment or sounding robotic. It's about training your internal sense of a rhythm so your voice serves the message and the jurors never feel left behind. So if you've ever wondered, how do I know if I'm going too fast? Where should I actually pause? Or how do I avoid sounding stiff if I slow down? This guide will walk you through it. So to grab a pace and pause guide, just go to fostervoicestudio.com/pace and pause, all one word, pace and pause, and it will get delivered right to your inbox. I'll put the link in the show notes as well. It's free, it's practical, it's grounded in both neuroscience and, well, just years of real trial coaching experience. I made it to support the exact kind of work you're doing, where your words carry weight and how to deliver them. That matters just as much as what you say. So, as we wrap up today, I want you to remember when you build in that space, when you slow down your cadence, when you let your words breathe, you're doing something deeply generous. You're respecting your jurors' ability to think, to feel, and to remember. So next time you're prepping for trial, I want you to ask yourself, am I helping them learn or am I just getting through my outline? Because it's not just what you say, it's how you let it land. Now, if this episode resonated, I'd love for you to share it with a colleague or just leave a quick review. It means the world and it helps others find the show. So I'll see you next time. And until then, keep fostering your voice. Thanks for pulling up a seat with me today and for being part of the Foster fam. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, go ahead and leave a review or a comment so I can give you a shout out on a future episode. During the week, you can find me on Instagram at Foster Voice Studio, where I'm dropping little nuggets of vocal technique and leadership wisdom. You can also join my mailing list by visiting fostervoicestudio.com or by clicking the link in the show notes. I'll send a weekly vocal tip every Tuesday directly to your inbox. Until then, keep fostering your voice.